Call the regular city council meeting Wednesday, December 11th, 2013 to order. Clerk call roll, please.
Alderman Putoff.
Here.
Ferrari.
Here.
Waldorf.
Here.
Lukosius.
Here.
Perez.
Here.
Radke.
Here.
Mueller. Sapienza.
Here.
Mayor Harrell.
Here. Pledge of allegiance. Presentation.
None, Your Honor.
Any public comment cards?
None, Your Honor.
Now I know that we have quite a few city employees here. We're supposed to fill out public comment cards, but we all know why you're here. So if you do have anything to say at this time, feel free to do that. Okay, do we have a motion to receive the minutes and place on file?
So moved, Your Honor. Second, Your Honor.
Have a motion by Alderman Putoff, second by Alderman Waldorf to receive the minutes and place on file. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll move right to Accounts and Finance. Alderman Putoff, Alderman Radke.
Yes, Your Honor. The first item of business is the approval of the employee health plan. The employee health plan is the health insurance for our employees, and what basically it is currently the city pays about $1 million a year in premium cost. Next year, the city, or January 1st, the employees will assume about 15% of that. Health care, again, as everybody understands throughout the country, is really a moving target. It's very difficult as far as prediction of any cost. It's very difficult to predict anything when it's coming to health care. The process that we began started back in July, and the Finance Committee, along with the City Council, had listened to several plans for cost savings for the City of Peru. The original Blue Cross Blue Shield plan was about a 15% increase, so that amounted to a cost of about another $150,000 a year for premiums for the City of Peru. As a result of that, we do assume that the employees will be paying 15% of that. So that brought down to the city's cost of about 4%, 4 to 5% would be paying more than we had in previous years. The three plans that we really brought it down to was the idea of renewing with Blue Cross Blue Shield on the current plan, looking at a fully self-funded program, which was Mutual Medical, or a Blue Cross plan, which we call 3805. That Blue Cross plan is a little different than the original renewal plan. It is somewhat self-funded. It deals with a higher percentage or higher deductibles from the city's end of health insurance. After a lot of review, meeting with the city employees and some city employees on several different occasions, we had their input. We listened to some of their concerns about the networks. We took into account of all of that, and we came up with some ideas as far as the next step forward. We wanted a plan that resembles the current network, resembles the current out-of-pocket cost, and the current co-pays as they stand right now. That was very difficult to do, and with the cost or the loss runs that our city has had in the past, it was impossible for us to find any other competing company that would be open to bidding for the City of Peru's health insurance. So after a lot of discussion, we felt in the benefit of the city and also the benefit of the employees that we did agree upon the plan of 3805. That's a Blue Cross plan. It has the same deductibles as it currently have. It has the same out-of-pocket cost, and it has a little bit lower as far as the employees' cost for monthly premium than what we would have assumed on January 1st by renewing the Blue Cross plan. Where the city is looking to save the plan is really on the back end. The city's looking as far as paying some higher deductible cost. And with reviewing the loss runs over the past 3 years, we took a savings cost of that the city has a potential to save right around $100,000 to $150,000 if our claims remain consistent as they have in the past 3 years. It also assumes that if the claims are greatly increased, then of course the city savings will decrease, and then we will have to come back to the table next year to look at a plan that will, I guess, further benefit the city as far as some cost savings. So at this time tonight, again, we'll be open up to any questions that we have. We do have employees here. We have the agent of records also here tonight. I'd like to make a motion to renew the health plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield as far as the 3805 plan is concerned.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now, we, the city, we're assuming more risk on for the deductibles, correct?
More back-end risk, meaning that the deductibles, as far as higher-end deductibles in the $5,000 and $10,000 range, the city is assuming more of a risk with that. But again, according to the census that we've had in the last 3 years, or expected risk factors, that if those continue, then the city would be having some savings with that.
So it shows here additional annual reimbursement, $34,000. That's what we're assuming. If worst case scenario, max.
Right.
Right. And then it shows here that the employee plus children's will be $1,180 down to $988.
Yeah, that will be the cost savings, again, with the additional risk that the city's assuming.
Right. And
Essentially, all the premiums for all the employees and the city both, all the premiums are reduced. The difference is that the city will pick up a little bit more on the deductible side, essentially.
right, but historically over the last 3 years, that's not what's happened. You never know what's going to happen. It's insurance. That's what insurance is.
And everyone, the aldermen have, I think, have this in front of them. You can see that if we just renew what we have versus the plan that we've moved to renew. If we have a bad year, there's some additional cost to the city. If we have a good year, there's some savings to the city. But if we just renew what we have, we're right in the middle of those two numbers.
So the family, if we would have just renewed, was $1,838 with the exact same coverage that we currently have. And by assuming the extra risk of family is $1,540. So that's roughly what? 200, what is the math there?
About $300.
10%.
Yeah.
Yeah, $250, $300 a month.
So if you're an employee of family coverage, your rate every month will be $45 less than what it is now.
Right.
The cities will be about 200 and whatever the balance is, 250 a month less or whatever.
TPOs, everything stays the same?
Exactly the
Exact
same.
network for all the employees.
Look on the bottom line, you see the total estimated payout with maximum risk on the current plan is $1.32 million. Mutual Medical was $1.163, and the Blue Cross 3805, again, that's maximum risk, is $1.1. So assuming that things go as predicted, the city would have some cost savings for this plan.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there, to go with Blue Cross Plan 3805? Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Have a roll call vote. Clerk call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Sapienza.
Motion approved.
Your Honor, I'd like to add, I know there's a lot of work that goes into this, and appreciate all the Finance Committee and HR Director Kim Reese put into this. It's a lot of work every year, and somebody mentioned earlier if we could do something out of a 2-3 year plan to where we wouldn't have to do this every year, that would be great, but there's a lot of work that goes into this, and appreciate what everybody does for this.
Yeah, that was discussed in finance. The real difficulty is that we don't get our renewal from Blue Cross until really late October, and that's what really starts the ball rolling. So when that renewal comes back high, then we have to start looking at other options, and it becomes difficult to do that in a timely manner.
Anything further, Accounts Finance?
That's all I have from the Accounts Committee, Your Honor.
Public Works, Alderman Waldorf, Lukosius.
No report at this time, Your Honor, for electric.
Your Honor, I have the city water and wastewater report. I've got this report on my phone here, and I can't see very well, so bear with me. At our water treatment plant, total water produced was almost 87 million gallons. On the wastewater treatment side at our east plant, we treated as normal flow a little over 62 million gallons, and at our west plants, we treated normal flow almost 34 million gallons. I would like to make a motion to receive this report and place it on file.
Second.
Been a motion and a second to receive the report and place on file. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Next, I have a motion to approve Attachment 3 compensation for engineering services during the construction phase, not to exceed $46,000 for the Area 1 Phase 1 sewer separation. These are standard percentage charges for engineering. The $46,000 represents about 8% of the total operation costs. So I will make that a motion.
Second that, Your Honor.
I have a motion by Alderman Waldorf, second by Alderman Lukosius to approve the Attachment 3 compensation engineering services. Is there any discussion?
Alderman Waldorf, could you explain that to the public?
I can explain this if you'd like. This is the engineering services agreement that was originally passed for Area 1. Was passed on 18th of December 2000. And this particular engineering services agreement has multiple facets to it. And when that agreement was passed back in December 18th of 2012, that last agreement, page 18 and 19 of the overall agreement, wasn't signed, wasn't ratified. So it's part of an agreement that we've already signed all the other places for their engineering services, but that page wasn't filled in with the dollar amount, and it wasn't signed at that time. So we're getting to that portion of the project, and it sort of popped up on the radar to get cleaned up.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve change order number 1 for Area 1.
Hold on. We need to do a roll call vote on that if there's no further discussion. Call the roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Sapienza.
Aye.
So moved.
I'd like to make a motion to approve change order number 1 for Area 1 Phase 1 sewer separation to Opperman Construction Company in the amount of $37,895.20.
Second that, Your Honor.
This has to do with a water line that is 16 foot deep at the bottom of the hole that's on Water Street, down south of Jim and Linda's. We're going to run some more water line to get that up where we can maintain it, because our city forces cannot maintain it at 16 feet deep. So this is the extra charge for that, and again, I will make that a motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Alderman Waldorf, second by Alderman Lukosius to approve the Opperman changes. Is there any discussion?
Where did you say this was located?
Water Street.
Okay, I thought it was up north. I
No,
thought this
Water
was that.
Street south of Jim and Linda's,
Okay.
where they're starting the sewer separation.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
What's the timeline on that? For opening that road?
We're hoping pretty soon here. We gotta get the railroad to give us easement documents back, and then we'll be able to proceed through with the rest of the project, so that's what we're waiting on right now.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote. Clerk call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Sapienza.
So moved.
Next, I would like to discuss and approve an easement with Jack Boehm at the west end approved for eventual west end sewer extension. This is for the Two Rest Motel. They were going to put a grinder pump in and pump their sewage to our trunk line over on the road to the west that goes down to our west wastewater treatment plant, correct? Tim Perra Drive. And this has to do with the health department and where their sanitary sewer is connected. Jack Boehm, we spoke with him, and it's an easement that goes all the way across his property and he's willing to do that. That way, eventually, when the annexations happen out there, if and when, we'll have the sewer extension there. So we want to go ahead with that easement.
Do we have a second?
I didn't
Or
make
did-
it a motion, and just a discussion. I mean,
Oh, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Well, is there any discussion?
Do we,
Well, if it's a motion, I'll second it.
Alderman Waldorf, you made the motion?
I did.
Okay, motion by Alderman Waldorf, second by Alderman Lukosius. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Next, I'd like to make a motion to award the West Side Trunk Sewer Flow Diversion Structure to Stott Contracting LLC in the amount of $71,200. This is the diversion structure that we spoke about quite some time ago on the floor and approved going ahead for bids. We have a lot of capacity left at the east plant, and we're nearing capacity at the west plant. And rather than go through $1 million or so upgrade, we can use the flow at our east wastewater plant for $71,000. It'll put off spending a lot of money for quite some time. So again, that's a motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Alderman Waldorf, second by Alderman Lukosius to approve the Stott diversion project. If this is approved, when's it gonna happen?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty quick here.
They do wanna work in the winter?
Yeah, I mean, from what we talked to them, it sounded like once we get the notice to proceed and move forward with that, I mean, sometime in January, I think we're looking at starting with that potentially.
And the site is east side of Peoria Street, south side of Midway?
Correct.
Where are they from, Stott?
Morris.
Have they done projects in Peru before? I'm just looking
They
as
were
far
on
as
a project last year, I don't remember which one it was,
references.
but they were.
They've done a lot of work. I do a lot of work in Morris, a lot of work in Diamond, Coal City. They partner a lot of times with larger companies with bigger diamonds, so they have a good track record.
Okay,
We can
thanks.
certainly provide you references.
Any further discussion?
can you explain exactly what, this is and what flow diverts where?
Yeah, Chris would probably be the best one to explain it.
Yeah, it's basically going to take the flow, everything north of 80 comes down Peoria Street and ends up ultimately going to the West Wastewater Treatment Plant. What we're going to do is capture that flow and actually have a structure there that will be able to divert, a portion of it back to the East Wastewater Treatment Plant again. We're rated at 1 million gallons a day average at the West Wastewater Treatment Plant. And as Alderman Waldorf was talking, we're basically at capacity right now. And as we do the stormwater and the sanitary sewer separation projects throughout the southern part of town, we're actually gaining capacity at the east plant. So rather than spend $1 million+ upgrading the west plant, and we're actually gaining capacity at the east plant, we figured, spend the $70,000, because we actually have probably close to 2 to 2.5 million gallons a day available at the east plant currently, and it's growing as we're separating. So, we just figured this would definitely be a good fit, to take care of that. And as you're reaching capacity on that west trunk sewer, as you want more and more businesses to come up to that north end, you want to be able to, if a business wants to locate here in the city, and all of a sudden they want to discharge, let's say, 500,000 gallons a day, you want to be able to say, yeah, we can take it. So.
I guess the concern I have is the potential to divert sewage through we had some flooding issues in the St. John's area, and is there any risk at all of upsetting that?
This is the actual, everything from up north actually used to flow to the east plant, obviously, before the west plant. So this isn't, it's a kind of a change back to the old days, but in this last event on April 18th, the St. John's area would not be in conflict with this flow route. This is down Midtown and then down Rock Street to Shooting Park and over to 251. So the St. John's area is somewhat separate and goes in a different direction.
Now. Okay, it goes to the Rock Street trunk sewer instead of the Centennial Park trunk
Correct.
sewer. Okay, thank you.
Plus, there's no restriction, it's diversion. right?
No,
There's no restriction, so,
You would just set a certain flow to go to the west, and then anything additional go over to the east.
Yeah, but you're gonna put more water into that
No.
system.
no, you're not.
You're gonna put more water into the east side.
You put more water in the Rock Street trunk sewer.
But it used to
Or that-
actually,
That sewer.
It all used to go there.
it all
before
used to go there before
We
in the
did not
past.
have, to my knowledge, significant issue with their, I know you're still compiling the report for all those.
This
water
last
spots.
event we had, I don't think we had a single event on Rock Street.
I think you're correct, yeah.
Any further discussion?
Any other contractors besides Stott that we've checked with, or?
Well, this went off the bid, so we had,
Oh,
You had 7, didn't you, on that one? 7 or 9?
okay.
this was the low in this case.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Sapienza.
So moved.
Next, Your Honor, I'll make a motion to approve reimbursement for sewage backup damage to property located at 2415 Third Street in the amount of $11,443.66. This was an Area 4 and 6 sewer separation issue. They didn't, our friends at TJ Lambrick did not reconnect their sanitary, and it eventually backed up big time into this basement. There was a lot of storage in there. It's a 2-flat, and there was a gentleman living upstairs. They had remodeled the upstairs. There was a gentleman living up there that started to have severe health issues, so he couldn't make the stairs. So they moved him upstairs, or moved him downstairs, moved their stuff out of the downstairs, moved him downstairs, and in the remodeling, they had their stuff stored down there. I don't have that right, but they remodeled one floor or the other, moved the guy up there and stored their stuff in the basement. Then it all backed up, and it's $11,000.
Could you explain to the public why the city's covering it and not TJ Lambert? I understand, but if you could.
Well, yeah, when we settled with TJ Lambrick and came to a reasonable understanding about what we would pay them, we accepted the liability for any and all problems that came up as time went on with that job. So the city is responsible, and that's why we're paying it.
Thank you.
And it should be, there was a lot of negotiation that went in place.
There was,
there
and
with the
we ended up
attorney, and
with,
we ended up getting a very good,
yeah, we did, a very good settlement.
saving us an amount of money significantly more than the $11,000. So
Absolutely. And there's been 4 or 5 of these, but in that agreement, we did accept liability.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Sapienza.
So moved.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Public Health Safety, Alderman Ferrari, Sapienza.
Your Honor, I have the approved fire department report for the pay period ending December 7th, 2013. The approved fire department received and responded to a total of 8 fire calls for that pay period. There was also one of the 2 monthly training sessions included in this pay period for a total of 9. The total payroll for the period ending December 7th, 2013 is $2,163.96. I'd like to make a motion to accept this report and place it on file.
Second, Your Honor.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Your Honor, we've got a couple of things that Chief King would like to comment on. We have a couple ordinances that he's discussed with us to change.
Alderman, we got an ambulance report first.
Excuse me. We do have an ambulance first. I was going to put that last. That's okay. The Prue Volunteer Ambulance Service responded to 199 patient calls during the month of November with total mileage logged of 6,498 miles. I'd like to make a motion to accept this report and place it on file.
Second, Your Honor.
There's been a motion to accept the ambulance report. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Okay. All right. Chief King, go ahead.
Thanks, Alderman Sapienza. To start out with, basically, I just have two changes that we're going to look at on the burning ordinance, Chapter 42 of the code. It'll be Section 42-1A2. We're looking at changing what currently states in there. There should be no burning of any leaves on Sundays and/or Mondays. We are going to add the proposed change. There will be no burning of leaves on Sundays, Mondays, and federal holidays. The reason we're looking at that is there was some complaints over the last holiday that a lot of leaves are being burned and people are outside cooking or whatever they were doing, and our office received a lot of complaints on it, so we thought we would make this change. The other one is also going to be a proposed addition to the same ordinance, proposed addition, Section 42-A8. The fire chief, fire marshal shall have authority to grant a no-fee burning permit when burning exceeds the scope of this ordinance. And basically what that's going to be is you can come in and apply for a permit if you have an area that you need to burn or it's not going to affect anybody, or you have a bigger area like up north. We have some areas up there that if they burn up there to never affect anybody, and because we're annexing, getting different properties, and up there they're wanting to clear fence lines and stuff like that. And right now with our current burning ordinance, we can't allow them to burn anything up there. So with this will give the fire chief, fire marshal the opportunity to go up and visit the site and issue a no-fee burning permit. So those are the two we're looking at.
So I guess what we'll do is we'll submit a proposal for an ordinance change for next meeting. Alderman Ferrari, do you have something on the police?
Can do.
Okay, also, with the devastating tornado we had in Washington and Diamond, Illinois, every Tuesday we check the tornado sirens. Chief, you want to fill us in on the tornado sirens?
Actually, once a month at 10:30 across the state is when sirens are typically tested. In our last test, we discovered that our siren at 7th and Sycamore, it's one of 7 sirens in the city, has failed. We don't know the extent of the failure. We also have one that was malfunctioning. It appeared on and off up near Shimmer Forge. So the company that we've always contracted with, I contacted them, and they're going to be out hopefully as early as next week to address the issue at 7th and Sycamore. Hopefully that's going to be a very small fix. If we find that it was damaged with lightning and is not repairable or something like that, we'll obviously have to turn that into insurance, because that would be extremely pricey to replace that. But at the same time, we're going to do our biannual, every 2-year maintenance of all 7 sirens in the city. So we'll be spending about $2,000 to $3,000 in the maintenance, which was due to be done in March anyway, prior to tornado season. But we're going to do everything at the same time, so we don't have to pay them to come back in March and do that. So hopefully it's a repair that's relatively easy. If not, we'll have to determine why that siren failed, and if it's an insurance claim, then obviously we'll work with the insurance. So we'll have them down there, and hopefully we'll have a report back to the council in timely manner. So 6 out of the 7 are operating, 5 fully functional, 1 we're not so sure about, and 1 is down right now.
Also, we discussed an alarm ordinance. You want to fill us in on that?
Yes, as the council knows, I sent out a memo to everybody on the city council, giving you the historical background on this alarm ordinance that was, many years ago was passed. We did tweak it a couple of years ago, and it's my suggestion, and I believe the Public Health and Safety Committee agrees with my recommendation to have the corporate council amend the ordinance and kind of change the fine structure for false alarms. The purpose of this ordinance was originally intended, and I think has been successful, is to try and reduce the number of false alarms that the police have to respond to. The fallout of that is I think we're a little too aggressive on how quick we find people for legitimate false alarms. The fire department, when they receive false alarms, everybody gets at least 3
freebies a year, so to speak, and a quarter. And ours is based on a calendar year, so there's some minor tweaking of the ordinance that I think will be very well received by our business community, that I think would be very, very good to change the recommendation. Basically, what I want to do is the first 4 alarms for the calendar year, or an average of 1 a quarter, there would be no charge. After that, the 5th alarm is when we'd go into some charging, and we would reduce that to $50. But that would at least give them an average of every quarter. And I know for a fact that would be very well received by our businesses. The other downside of having too good of an ordinance, so to speak, is I think there's a scenario sometimes where businesses will tell their alarm company, you know, I've had enough false alarms, so don't call the police anymore, call me, and I'll go up and check it out. And obviously, we don't want our people doing that and exposing themselves to danger, and we also don't want the police driving down the street and stumbling across something that they could have been notified via an alarm. So I think that's a safety issue, and I think, again, the business community will receive this and will be viewed as very pro-business friendly. So I'd like to have those get with the city attorney, and if the council's okay with that, get it on the agenda for next week.
Clerk Bartley, can you handle that, please?
Yes.
I have nothing else. Do you have anything?
Nothing else.
It's all under public health and safety.
Chief Burnaby? Excuse me. Could you touch on the commendation that you sent out to the aldermen? Could you share that, or?
Yes, it's actually going to be in next week's report. It'll be in the council packet, but I can do that tonight or next week, whatever.
It's up to the committee.
Let's wait.
Yeah, it'll be addressed at Monday night's meeting on my next monthly report.
Thank you.
Public Property, Alderman Perez, Alderman Mueller.
Yes, Your Honor, we have no report at this time. We have a committee meeting scheduled for this evening, but Alderman Mueller is absent. We also have a couple of things on the agenda, which we will have to table because we needed to finalize those things in the committee meeting this evening. So if we could schedule a committee meeting for Monday at 6:30. And if we could just add these 2 items to the agenda for Monday, that'd be great.
Got it.
Other than that, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Report to city attorney.
Yes, Your Honor, there are a couple of hearings before the Zoning Board of Appeals and Plan Commission. The first concerned the petition of Greg and Karen Sadlowski for property at 3107 7th Street in Peru. That would be property that would be west of the west terminus of 7th Street, and then it continues west along a 30-foot easement. This was a hearing before just the Zoning Board of Appeals pursuant to notice duly published in the News Tribune. Concerning that property, petitioners desire to construct a detached 40 feet by 60 feet garage upon the property without a principal residence and request variances to do so. Zoning Board of Appeals members Biederstadt, Brining, Miller, Wujek, and Gans were present in the hearing. Arrington and Atkinson were absent. Greg Sadlowski, after being first duly sworn, stated he desires to construct a pole barn-style structure upon the premises to store his car collection. He has several show cars, with one presently stored in LaSalle, one in Spring Valley, and one in Tonica. He stated he purchased property from LaSalle State Bank after the bank determined it was unlikely to be sold for a new residence. Property has been used for dumping grounds for the last 10 to 15 years, and Mr. Sadlowski stated he has been cleaning up the property and removing the discarded tires, bricks, and other construction debris. Karen Sadlowski, after being first duly sworn, said the property is very unique and is within 2 blocks of their personal residence. She stated one side of the property is abutted by Store Galore, another side by UPS, and the north side is agricultural. She stated the Western Shore Pipeline is a 50-feet easement along the west side of the property, and therefore no structures can be built upon that easement. She stated that pipeline runs from Wisconsin down to the Illinois River, and she believes it may not be presently used, but is told that it may be used in the future. Mr. Slodowski stated his proposed pole structure would otherwise be hidden by trees and would be constructed east of the pipeline easement. In response to questioning from Member Bederstedt, he stated the structure would have two-tone color, and his son has indicated he may eventually consider a residence on the property. Member Bederstedt expressed concern that if a garage was allowed to be constructed in an R2 zoning classification without being accessory to a residence, it would establish poor precedent for similar requests in the future. He acknowledged the subject property is unique and the proposed structure would not be offensive as it might in a normal residential neighborhood, but residential is the present classification of the property. He suggested the petitioners may consider a zoning reclassification for the property. Member Bederstedt also presented a letter from absent member Tom Atkinson stating that he also is concerned about the establishing precedent by allowing a garage in a residential zoning classification without being accessory to a residence. Karen Sadowski again emphasized the subject property is very unique, and the residence across the street has a pole building. She stated it would be difficult to build a single-family residence on the property. Mr. Slodowski stated the property was purchased from South State Bank after it was unsuccessful in selling the property for a residence. Bank came back to him and accepted his lower offer than the original asking price because of issues with the property. He stated his new proposal was to construct a somewhat smaller building, 36 feet by 66 feet, and have a family garden. Member Miller also acknowledged the property might be unique, but it would be poor precedent to allow a garage in a residential area without a residence. Member Brining stated the petitioner has done a lot of work in cleaning out the property, but garages should not be on their own lots and in areas zoned residential. Member Bederstedt again stated his recommendation to deny the petition, and petitioner should consider a rezoning of the property. Member Gans also stated the petitioner should consider rezoning the property because it would be inappropriate to allow just a garage without a residence on the property. Mr. Slodowski stated he does not want to change the zoning classification of the property to commercial, as his goal to keep the property wooded and aesthetically pleasing with a garage and garden. He stated that the access to the property is only by a 30 feet wide easement. No objectors are present in the hearing. Member Wujek moved. Member Miller seconded. Zoning Board of Appeals recommend to the City Council petition be denied. Motion passed unanimously, 5 ayes, 0 nay. Respectfully submitted, Douglas Bederstedt, Chairman.
Have a motion to receive the minutes placed on file.
Your Honor, I just wanted a few comments on that. The first thing I got to really say is that I respect the work that the zoning board does in our city, and certainly the work is appreciated by all of us. This property is really a unique piece of property. And what I mean, it's located on the far west end of Peru on 7th Street. Located north of that is a big storage unit that has a retention, I guess you'd call it a retention river, a large fence, I guess that would be south of it, and it's a wooded area surrounded by farmland. There's only one way into it, and that's on 7th Street, which that area has very narrow roads and a gravel road right to the edge of that. So it has very little potential as far as commercial property is concerned. Actually, it has, really in my estimation, no potential as far as commercial property. The owners bought the property. They've cleaned it up. I mean, it was basically a dump site or a landfill area filled with tires, a variety of different things, but they saw some potential in it. They bought it. They bought it for use of what they wanted was a large garage to store some cars or a car collection. A shed, so to speak, but a large shed in that area. The owners could actually say, we'll go along with it, we can get it rezoned, we will rezone it commercial. But if it's zoned commercial, I think we have a variety of other problems on our hand. First of all, the increased traffic flow with a commercial unit out there isn't going to accommodate the neighborhood one bit, and I certainly wouldn't believe that it could accommodate much traffic to that area at all. Again, it's very narrow streets and actually gravel road. The only real use for it would be a residential home on it, and certainly these people are buying it with that maybe in the future or that someday. But they can't really do anything with it if they keep it as is unless they zone it commercial. So what they're really looking for is if the zoning of appeals board could take a look, meet with them on site, they could actually go over what they need. I think from a common sense standpoint, it certainly makes a lot of common sense to me that it has limited or no potential for a commercial site, and why go through all of that paperwork or all of the different avenues to make it a commercial site. And only a piece of the property can be built on. There's a large pipeline, high-pressure liquid petroleum pipeline that goes right into the middle of that, so the entire piece of property couldn't be developed commercially anyway. So it has really limited residential, but again, these people are looking for that to build, frankly, a building that would blend in pretty well with the surrounding buildings alongside of it. Again, I'm only asking to see if they take another look at it, and certainly the property owners would like to meet with them again on site to see if they would take another review of that. I don't want to reverse this decision, but I think it's a unique perspective, a unique piece of property that really a lot of common sense says that this would be ideal for a storage shed or ideal for that purpose that they're looking for. So yeah, really that's all I'm asking tonight, is to just take another review of that and to see if that would be the best use for it.
Doug, does the zoning board have any other options to consider other than rezoning?
Well, I think you could have a hearing before the Plan Commission for a text amendment drafted in such a way that it would allow a special use within that zoning classification.
Which would apply to that particular parcel and no other?
Well, and then you know that any other situation like that would have to have a hearing before the Plan Commission.
Because I don't want to reverse their decision either, but I completely understand the position of the residents and Alderman Putoff, and I think there's probably like to find a way to come to a solution.
Well, I think the zoning board was also appreciative of that fact, but they didn't want to be in a position, and the zoning inspector has one now that wants a garage in the middle of a zoning district. You've had the property the city owns on 7th and Buffalo that people want to build just a garage on there. But I mean, the procedure, I think, would be to seek a text amendment within that zoning classification, or rezone it to the commercial with restrictions. I mean, you can do a lot of things with appropriate restrictions, but that's generally reserved to situations of a special use.
Because I agree with the zoning board that we don't want to set a precedent for other property that is not in the same situation.
I guess we do have the property owners are here, Greg and Karen are here, but would it be, I mean, what you're saying is, would it be proper for them to ask for the Planning Commission to review this?
Well, not this. I think it would be appropriate to just, act upon this petition, but you'd have to file a new one. This matter was just before the Zoning Board of Appeals. But anytime you do a text amendment to a zoning ordinance, that has to go to it actually has to go to both, the Zoning Board and the Plan Commission. But this matter was not, because it was just solely on variances before. I mean, you have some unique areas. The apartments on the second floor on the Water Street properties was a text amendment. There have been a number of text amendments. That was a situation of allowing residential on second floor in an otherwise manufacturing district zoning classification.
So can the council refer this to the Planning Commission, or do the residents need to?
Well, no, they'd have to file their own petition.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree with Alderman Putoff. I believe that we should try to work something out and come to a solution. I'm kind of familiar with that property, and I believe I took Chief Burnaby out there over a year ago. And it's pretty desolate and surrounded with trees, and you wouldn't even know it's there unless you go back in there. So I'd like to try to do something too.
Yeah, I concur with that also. I'd like to see us try to entertain another meeting for the Sadlowskis. I'm really not for commercial zoning unless it would have some real restrictions on it, because we don't need any more commercial traffic on 7th Street, especially the narrow end of that street down there. But this property would be definitely conducive for a pole building that they want to construct, and it is kind of hidden, and it's not going to interfere with anything else. And with the store galore next to it and UPS behind it, I mean, when you talk about precedents, I think those have already been set down there. But it is zoned residential, so we could only ask for another hearing.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago where it was a horse barn, and they had horses roaming in that small area. So it's really, I agree, Jim, it's really not conducive to commercial. There's just only one access point, and that access point is very limited to it.
Corporate counsel, you say we have to act on it. What would we have to do if we want to refer it back?
Well, you can't refer it back to the Plan
Okay,
Commission because it wasn't before the Plan Commission in the first instance.
What action do
I
we have to take?
mean, well, you would receive the report. If you're not going to reverse the decision, you would just concur in the report and place it on file.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
What's the size of that, Mr. Sadowski? It's like what's the acreage?
You don't want to concur.
No, I'm not going
Under an acre, yeah. Probably what you should do is, maybe they can meet with the zoning inspector to come up with a list of things that would be very unique of that property, and then try to draft a special use, and then have a hearing before the Plan Commission. I mean, the hospital has like 3 of them over there, the last one being the wound care center with the oxygen. I mean, that was a text amendment. I mean, that's pretty typical. You've had text amendments in the downtown district.
Well,
So it's uniquely attributable to that property, and anybody seeking a text amendment within Harvest Community Church. There's a special use and a text amendment on 4th Street. But then anybody seeking to do that would have to have a hearing before the Plan Commission.
So they would just have to file a petition for a hearing?
That would be a joint hearing before the Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. But I would suggest meeting with Mr. Biederstadt and the zoning inspector and the petitioners before that, so you can craft language for that text amendment to put it in as a special use within that residential zoning classification.
Okay.
And if we don't concur, the results are the same. You still would have to require that to move any action, correct? If we don't concur, if I don't concur with the report, they still have to go through that same process to get it approved anyway. So concurring with it or not concurring with it makes no difference.
Well, I suppose you could deny the petition. Receive the report and reverse the decision, but I think that would be very poor given the extreme number of variances the property requires for that use. You would be better off on having text amendment to the zoning ordinance with the hearing before the Plan Commission, and then grant it, and then put any special requirements on that for that property. Follow what we're saying? Dave, you okay.
Okay, what do you want to do with this report? What are we going to do with the minutes?
I move we accept it and concur with the recommendation.
Do we have a second? No second? Okay. You have other minutes?
Well, you should place it on file. I mean, you should take some action on it one way or another. I mean, if you're going to come back to the, a new petition with, and if you read the report, I mean, I think at least 4 of the Zoning Board of Appeals members said that. They were talking about a zoning reclassification, but I mean, you can have the same thing done with a special use if you wanted to maintain that zoning classification.
The problem is, it doesn't really matter where it's at. If you set this precedent, you're going to be dealing with this again and again and again. There's many lots out there. There's been many people in here wanting to build accessory structures without a primary residence, and it just doesn't fit.
I think it's a very unique situation now.
Well, it's
well,
not.
It is.
It doesn't
Nobody's arguing that point.
It is
nor were any of the zoning board members. They just didn't think without a text amendment you should grant that many variances in a residential area.
So nobody wants to second
Well,
this place
somebody,
on file?
you have to take, under our zoning ordinance, you have to take some action on it. You know, that action, if you're going to do it by text amendment and another hearing before the Plan Commission, where you receive the report, well, follow Alderman Radke's motion.
You need to do something with it. You need to either second this and place it on file, or you need to make a motion not to concur and overturn it. One of the two. You can't just leave it sit.
If we concur with this as it's worded right now, that's not going to inhibit them in any way from filing a new petition for
No, of course not. No.
Okay, well, I'll second it then.
And if we don't concur, again, they still would have to file that same
That's
petition
correct.
again.
That's correct.
That'd be
So
about the
regardless-
bottom line, yeah.
There's been many people in here that want to build structures like this. You're going to have garages out by themselves all over town. It's not what you want.
Well, I think that's why you have that commission, is to review each unique particular item and to make exceptions if it is actually unique as compared to the middle of town.
Right.
And obviously this has no bearing on any neighborhood. There's no neighbors that object to it. And so
That's right, but that's why you craft that special use to fit that purpose. I mean, otherwise you get into litigation. There's been one in Granville, I'm aware of. There was one in Mark. There was one in LaSalle. But people just wanting to throw up a garage, you know, next to your house because there are no private covenants and restrictions.
Okay. We have a motion by Alderman Radke, a second by Alderman Lukosius. All in favor signify by aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, place on file.
Next was a joint hearing before the Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals on the petition of Gary and Deb Dahl concerning the Dahl Estates LLC. It's 5.61 acre parcel of real estate that would be located south of Shooting Park Road and east of Sycamore Street and north of 14th Street Extended. That was a joint hearing. They desire to reclassify that property. That property is now classified R3, two-family residence district, and some as multiple family residence. They want to change it all to an R1. An R2 single-family classification. Zoning Board of Appeals members Biederstadt, Brining, Miller, Wujek, and Gans were present at the hearing. Harrington and Atkinson were absent. Plan Commission members Grabowski, Mullen, Biederstadt, Mays, Benvenuti, Basali, and Ballard were present at the hearing. Members Atkinson, Stewart, and Harrington were absent. Jonathan Chamlin, after being first duly sworn, said he has been working with Mr. and Mrs. Gary Dahl to design and develop a subdivision of the portion of Sycamore Lakes property to be known as Dahl Estates LLC subdivision. Mr. Chamlin introduced a preliminary plat and evidence outlining a 9-lot subdivision with 2 outlots at the entrance off Shooting Park Road. Mr. Chamlin stated the goal is to produce a community of residences with all living on one floor and to reduce labor and maintenance costs for the empty nesters who would not be living in the residences full-time. The development would be all single-family residences, and accordingly, petitioners desire the zoning classification be changed from the existing two-family or multiple-family to a single-family zoning classification. Mr. Chairman, the state the number of lots has been reduced from the 11-lot conceptual plan to 9 larger lots to accommodate ranch homes. Subdivision is proposed to be fenced in and heavily landscaped, with landscaping that would grow quickly to aesthetically look like an established neighborhood in a relatively short time. Mr. Chairman, the state petitioners are attempting to have Ameren reduce an existing 80 feet utility right-of-way easement to 66 feet. Response questioning from Member Mullen. Mr. Chairman, the stated proposed cul-de-sac is in compliance with zoning standards for an R2 classification. Zoning Inspector Fire Chief Jeff King stated proposed cul-de-sac is sufficient for fire trucks. Mr. Chairman stated that having only 2 lots instead of 3 at the end of the cul-de-sac affords larger lots and is more aesthetically pleasing. Response questioning from Member Bederstedt. Mr. Chairman, stated the proposed subdivision is now 9 lots compared to 11 as originally proposed. The cul-de-sac is now 110 feet to the east and west perimeters, respectively, of the development. Mr. Basali stated the proposed subdivision is good plan with the reduced number of lots. Mr. Grabowski concurred. Nancy Frank of 1805 Sycamore Street in Peru appeared with her husband Marvin. She stated they reside at the northeast corner of Sycamore Street and 14th Street, and accordingly they abut the proposed subdivision. She stated they have no objection to the zoning change, but were curious about the proposed fence. In response to questioning from Mrs. Frank, Mr. Chairman stated a proposed fence would be all the way around the development. It would be a high-quality fence compatible with a ranch community. It would be no more than 6 feet high. It would be set back a couple of feet from the actual property line as proposed the fence would be constructed by the time the lots are sold. Zoning Inspector stated presently a fence can be constructed right on the property line. Mr. Chairman stated this fence would be set back a little to allow maintenance, and the fence would also not be collinear throughout the whole development because aesthetically it would be better to have some offsets and to see a potentially wavy sightline. Chairman stated there would be no vehicular entrance from 14th Street. Would look like a gated development, but it would not be gated. Mr. and Mrs. Dahl desire construction on their own personal residence on proposed Lot 5 as soon as possible. Mr. Chairman stated the proposed fence is for security and aesthetics. There would be 10 street lights of lower height and wattage. Street would be all concrete pavement. Mr. Dahl stated his desire to construct their personal residence on that Lot 5. The lots are projected to cost over $100,000 each. Buildings or residences on there would be in excess of $125 per square foot. No objectors are present in the hearing. Member Brining moved, Member Miller seconded, proposed preliminary plat be favorably recommended to the Plan Commission. Passed unanimously. Member Mullen moved, Member Grabowski seconded, the Plan Commission recommend R2 zoning classification. Passed unanimously. Zoning Board of Appeals members approve the proposed front yard setbacks be reduced and the rear yard setbacks as set forth in the plat, and that the fence be allowed to be constructed on the south side of the property 5 feet north from the north 14th Street extended right-of-way. Respectfully submitted, Douglas Bederstedt, Vice Chairman of the Zoning Board and Chairman of the Plan Commission.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that the minutes be received, placed on file. The city concur with the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second that, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Powell, second by Alderman Lukosius to receive the minutes and place on file. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
I was gonna ask you to repeat that, corporate counsel, but,
Yeah. Next, we have an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance that would zone that property R2 single-family detached dwelling district for the whole 5.61 acres.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that that ordinance be adopted as written and read.
Second that, Your Honor.
Have a motion and a second that the ordinance be adopted as written and read. Is there any discussion?
I just, one question for corporate counsel. Why didn't they consider an R1?
Well, I'll ask Roger. I believe it's probably because of size. What, John?
So bigger homes on smaller lots.
Yeah, we want
What type of fencing are you looking at around this community? Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari. Waldorf. Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Sapienza.
Aye.
So moved.
Then you have ordinance approving the preliminary plat.
Make a motion that the ordinance be adopted as written and read.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Call the roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf. Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke. Sapienza.
Aye.
So moved.
Dave, could you make sure the 4 tax abatement ordinances are on the agenda for...
I think they're on the file already. Yes, sir.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? New business, we have any new business?
Yes, we do, Jeff King.
I was gonna discuss, the ordinance for residential and commercial contractors tonight, but I'm gonna push that off till Monday night, and we'll discuss it on Monday night.
Any other new business? Petitions, communications?
None, Your Honor.
Public comment, do we have any public comment? Any public comment? One more time, any public comment? Okay, it shows here that we have a closed session.
Yes, Your Honor, we have a closed session for meetings on collective negotiation matters between the public body and its employees and their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. I'd like to make a motion that the council move into closed session.
A second.
Motion and a second's been made. Any discussion?
Before everybody heads out, Your Honor, I have one thing. It's come to my attention that it is City Clerk Dave Barley's birthday today. I heard he turned 29 years old. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
Yes, 29.
So I don't know if you were going to sing or who was going to.
There's not going to be any singing.
Okay, with that, call the roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf. Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Sapienza.
So moved. John Lotzick.